A deadly twin earthquake in Venezuela has not only triggered a humanitarian crisis, but also raised concerns in global energy markets, and with hundreds killed and injured, the focus is now shifting to another critical question. That could the disaster affect global oil supplies and eventually impact petrol and diesel prices in India? And at the moment, there is no evidence of a major disruption to Venezuela's oil industry. However, the situation is being closely watched because Venezuela has recently become an important source of crude oil for India. And if oil exports are affected in the coming days, the impact could be felt far beyond Latin America. Well, why Venezuela matters to India? Let us understand about it first. India is the world's third largest oil consumer and imports nearly 85% of its crude oil requirements. And because of this heavily dependence on imports, any disruption in major oil production countries can affect India's energy security. Over the past few months, India has significantly increased crude oil purchases from Venezuela. The move came as New Delhi looked to diversify its energy source amid geopolitical tensions in West Asia and concerns over shipping routes such as the Strait of Hormuz. And according to the government data, Venezuela emerged as one of India's largest crude suppliers during April and May 2026. Average monthly imports jumped from around 64,000 metric tons in financial year 2025-2026 to more than 1 million metric tons in the first 2 months of financial year 2026 and 2027. Venezuelan crude is particularly attractive because many Indian refineries are designed to process heavy crude oil efficiently. Both public sector refiners and private companies have benefited from these imports. Well, did the earthquake damage oil infrastructure? That remains the biggest question, as initial reports suggest that Venezuela's major oil facilities, including refineries, pipelines and export terminals, have escaped significant damage. And according to the reports, oil operations have not reported major disruptions so far. Most of the destruction appears to be concentrated in the residential areas. Transport networks and public infrastructure, however, detailed inspections of oil facilities are still underway. Experts point out that major earthquakes can sometimes cause hidden structural damage. Pipelines, storage tanks and export terminals often require extensive safety checks before authorities can rule out operational risk completely. But why do global markets are watching closely? Well, oil markets react not only to actual supply disruptions but also to uncertainty, as Venezuela's importance has increased at a time when global energy markets are already facing several challenges. Tensions in West Asia, concerns over maritime security in the Red Sea, and periodic disruption around the Strait of Hormuz have created uncertainty in the global oil trade. And because of these risks, India deliberately increased imports from Venezuela to reduce dependence on Middle Eastern supplies. And if Venezuelan exports face problems while global tensions remain elevated, international crude prices could come under the pressure. And even a small reduction in supply from a major producer can influence global prices, especially when markets are already nervous. Well, could petrol and diesel price rise in India? The short answer is not immediately, as India imports crude oil from more than 35 nations, including Russia, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, the United States and Brazil. And this diversified sourcing helps protect the country from sudden supply shocks. Indian oil companies also maintain inventories and can adjust procurement strategies depending on market conditions. However, if the earthquake causes prolonged damage to Venezuela's oil infrastructure and global crude prices remain elevated for an extended period, fuel prices could eventually face upward pressure. Retail petrol and diesel prices depend on several factors, including international crude prices, taxes, exchange rates, and decisions by oil marketing companies. Therefore, any impact would likely be gradual rather than immediate. So what could happen next? Well, the next few days will be crucial as authorities in Venezuela are continuing damage assessments while energy companies inspect oil fields, pipelines, storage facilities and export terminals. Global markets will closely track whether crude exports continue normally or whether any disruptions emerge later. For India, the immediate concern is not a fuel shortage but protecting the energy diversification strategy it has built over the past few years. And as long as Venezuelan exports continue without major interruptions, India's fuel supplies are unlikely to face any serious threat. But if damage turns out to be more extensive than currently believed, the consequences could extend from global oil markets to fuel prices at home. That's all for now. Stay tuned to the Savera for more updates. Do like, comment and subscribe to the channel.